Welcome back. I was pretty proud of how this rapid game ended and just wanted to show it to you. Hopefully it won't take too long. Okay, oh, and there's my rapid rating from chess.com. Not related to this, but just for those of you that are keeping track, that's what that is. Okay. And here in this position, it was my turn, and I did not know that I had a slight advantage. I also did not know that this was the best move. It turned out to be. Now here, my opponent is supposed to take, and then I'm going to take back. But the idea for me was whether they took or not, I was getting my rook opened here. I also wanted to get this bishop moved if possible. For example, I was kind of hoping that they took this pawn so that I could take and then get my bishop out of the way, like there maybe, because this pawn wouldn't be hitting that square anymore, because I wanted my queen over here. The reason I wanted my queen over there is because the king has moved all of these pawns that are normally, the king is normally castled behind, and this pawn especially is unguarded. But my opponent didn't take the f pawn after I moved it. They moved their h pawn, and I decided not to be too worried about it, and I decided to go ahead with my plan, which was clearing the space for my rook by capturing. Since they didn't take me, I took them. And that now allows me, if I want to move my bishop here, or if they take with this pawn, then to put my bishop here or here. Well, not there. You know what I mean. So that I can get my queen over. That's my whole plan. Well, they pushed the h pawn again. Okay. So here, oh, it says g4 was my best plan? Well, I didn't even consider g4. I guess hoping that they would take so I could put my bishop there. Well, I played g3, which the computer didn't like that much. But regardless, I have an advantage because my opponent didn't take this pawn here, and they didn't take this pawn here. This still allows me room to move my bishop so I can bring my queen over. And again, I'm looking at this pawn and that weak area around their king, which is hiding behind this one lonely pawn there. So then they finally took there, and that turned out to be a mistake in that position because they're supposed to be getting this knight out of the way so they can castle. But they didn't do that. They finally took back this pawn and moved late. If you can see the clocks on the screen, my opponent's used less than a minute out of 10 minutes. And here we are in move 16. Now I've used closer to 2 minutes, but we're still moving fairly fast. My opponent is moving these moves within seconds, 1 or 2 seconds of me playing as if they're in blitz. Okay, well, again, the whole idea for me moving this, as I said before, was to get this bishop out of the way so I could bring my queen over. Well, since they took that, that gave me a spot for my bishop. So I decided to put it there. I did notice as I was moving that this left this pawn undefended and that my queen could capture that square. And that's what Stockfish says was my best move. Where's Stockfish? There's Stockfish. Stockfish says my queen should take that pawn. That's my absolute best move. But what I'm looking at is here, because they still haven't played this knight move or any other knight move in order to castle. I thought this might prevent that. Even though my opponent is up a pawn, they're posing no serious threat to me right now. So I did play that move. And again, they're still supposed to play this. And because now my bishop is cutting off their castling to that side. But my idea, again, was just to get the bishop out of the way so I could bring the queen over. Now here they did play knight to d7. And it wants me to put this... Oh, that would have been a good idea. Threatening the queen. That would have kept them from castling. But again, I said as I moved this last move, I saw that this pawn was undefended. So on this turn, they made no move to protect that pawn. So I took it. And now I've got my queen out, even though I didn't bring it out the way that I thought. I got it out here. And this pawn is still undefended. And the computer says you need to castle now because when I take this pawn, it's going to be with check. They didn't think of castling, but what they saw was since I put my queen here, they can fork these two pieces. Now the bishop is obviously defended by the queen, but the queen's going to have to move, and then they were up a pawn, not anymore, but they could trade off their knight for that bishop and then maybe castle. Maybe that's what they were thinking, so they went for that fork. Well, as I had said earlier, I saw that this g-pawn was undefended, so I took it with check, which is by far my best move. Okay, now this is the part that I was getting to that I'm very proud of. And now they can't castle because they have to move the king. And there's only two places to put it. One is here and one is here. Now, in my opponent's to my opponent's credit, they played the best move, which was moving the king that way, but that left his bishop undefended. And I thought, now I'm not just up a pawn, I'm going to be up a whole piece, and I'm still going to be backward defending my own bishop if they decide to go ahead and complete their fork, right? So that's what I did, and then Stockfish agrees that that's the best move. But then my opponent played that. Now, I didn't know, because obviously we don't have Stockfish running during the game. No reputable or decent person does. But when they did that, I was like, oh, wait. Now I can't defend my bishop, because I have to move my queen. And I'm going to lose the bishop because it's undefended. And I can't move my queen to a square that's going to defend the bishop. I can't move my queen here because the knight will take it. I can't move it here because the rook will take it. The knight will take it. The rook will take it. I could go there, or right, or there. Those were the two squares that I identified that I could move to. But right here, and now again, I didn't know Stockfish said because their rook moved over that I now have a forced mating sequence. But I thought for a second, wait, I have a lot of time left. Let me just think about this. And those puzzles that always start with a queen sacrifice, you remember those puzzles. I thought, what happens if I take the rook? Obviously, you're seeing Stockfish's recommendation right up here, which says, obviously, that's the best move. But then I saw it, because I had moved this bishop here, which Stockfish didn't like at that time, because at that time it thought they were going to move this knight here to shield the king and then castle, but they never did. So this bishop is now in a good spot, and that bishop cuts off these squares from the king. So if I take, that's with check. They don't have a choice. They can't move out of check. The only choice they have is to either block the check or to capture. One of those two moves, right? And then I thought, if they capture, look at that. That's mate, because again, my bishop cuts off these squares. And I thought, of course they're going to capture. That's the only reason they would have moved their rook there in the first place, is so they could get my queen for a rook, right? But I thought, well, they must have not realized. At the time, honestly, I didn't even see that they could block with the knight after I captured. So I captured, and clearly Stockfish is saying, well, delay this all you can by blocking here. Well, they didn't see anything coming. They did that. And that's mate. Game over. So yeah, I was pretty proud of that, and especially that last little sequence, because again, after I took that bishop, and then when the rook moved, for some amount of time, I thought, I don't know if it was once, I'll have to check the clock. How long did it take me to make that next move? Okay, it took me like 11 seconds. So for some number of seconds, I realized I might have gotten my queen trapped, and even if I escaped to the only two safe squares, they're just going to win my bishop outright. And then they're going to have their rook free, and their queen's going to be pointing down here, and so I thought I had made a mistake, but at some point, all those puzzles that started with queen sacrifices clicked in, and I realized if I take it and they take back, I had the mate, and I did it, and they did it, and they see my next move. Watch the time. 2 seconds. I hesitated just long enough to make sure that they had nothing defending that square, and moved that, and the game was over. So the puzzles have been helping, because I don't think I would have seen that move just a few months ago. But thank you for all your support. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.